I want to talk about the Spenser's stanza, that's 9-line stanza that he creates specifically for the Fairy Queen, and that you probably haven't seen any other poets do because it's actually fairly complicated. First, let's talk about the meter. This is mostly our old friend iambic pentameter. It is a 10-syllable line. It is iambic, which means the stressed syllables tend to come after the unstressed syllables, so we end on a strong beat. There's occasionally an 11th unstressed syllable. And it is pentameter. There are 5 feet, or units of little packages of syllables, one unstressed, one stressed, that go together. 5 feet pentameter, though each foot is iambic pentameter. It sounds like rocket science. It's really just counting to 10 and to 2. It's the same meter that Shakespeare uses, that Milton uses, that Chaucer uses. Do we have to count the silent E's this week? No, we no longer have to count the silent E's. But Spenser, Shakespeare will occasionally pronounce an ED. Sometimes to get the line to 10, you have to know to pronounce a, instead of something being buried, someone is buried. Instead of getting married, sometimes people are getting married. Some editions will put a little accent mark over that pronounced ed at the end of a word to show you that you have to actually say it, to say that vowel to get the count. Your editor trusts you and leaves you to work it out for yourself. So, but if the line seems short, if it doesn't seem like 10 syllables, pronounce an ED in there. That's what's happening. But it's not just iambic pentameter. Every 9th line is what's called hexameter. Hexameter is 6 feet, not 5. So you'll see 12-syllable lines still ending on the downbeat, but there are 6 little packages instead of 5, 6 feet hexameter. Why is he doing this? Partly because he can, partly to show off, partly because though pentameter is becoming the kind of standard English form for high-end poetry, there was a lingering belief in Spenser's lifetime that really hexameter, that 12-syllable line, that 6-foot line, that's how it really ought to be. That's the classiest line. This is because classical literature tends to be hexameter. Epic poetry, Homer and Virgil write both Greek and Latin in hexameters. So there's an expectation, hey, we want to be like them, we should do hexameter too. The problem is, it tends to sound bad in English, or rather not sound bad, it tends to sound monotonous. A 6-foot line will tend to split down the middle almost every time. There's a little pause, what we call in the trade a caesura, little pause in the line of poetry, pretty much in the middle every single time. And a caesura is there for variety. If you hear a caesura exactly in the middle of the line, every single line, that's crazy and extremely irritating. Really, you're writing trimeter, you're writing with 3-foot lines, and that's monotonous too. So Spenser does this weird compromise. It's 8 lines of pentameter, and then 1 hexameter line, just to show he can. And that really shows us, and that is the end of that stanza. On to the next 9 lines. Now Chaucer used an extremely simple rhyme scheme. He used couplets. Boat, float, star, car, song, wrong. Moves along, very easy. If you want to do a long narrative poem, using an easy rhyme scheme like that gives you a lot of flexibility. Shakespeare and Milton will often dispense with rhyme schemes altogether. Lots of Hamlet is in poetry, but it's in unrhymed poetry. All of Paradise Lost is an unrhymed verse, and there's a little note at the beginning about why rhyme is no good, and serious poets don't fool around with that French nonsense. Spenser's rhyming in a big way, and he's made it very complicated for himself. This is an elaborate interlocking rhyme scheme with 3 rhyme words. Instead of boat, float, car, star, he starts out, it goes A, B, A, B, B, C, B, again, C, C. So instead of boat, float, car, star. A typical rhyme scheme for Eddie is boat, car, float, star. Okay, A, B, A, B. That's the kind of second most complicated rhyme scheme in English. You get that boat, car, float, star, czar. B rhyme came back. Song, oh, something new. Guitar, wrong, along. Boat, car, float, stars, czar, song, guitar, wrong, along. That's complicated and intricate, and the three different rhyme words interlace. You got to find 4 rhymes off that B rhyme. It's hard, and English compared to the Romance languages is relatively rhyme poor. Let me say this. This is not easy to do. It's not easy to do anyway. Just writing a 9-line poem like this is tricky. Writing a 2 or 3 stanza poem like this is pretty tricky. Writing a long narrative poem like this is crazy. It is ridiculously difficult. Spenser has made life so much harder for himself. It takes enormous poetic technique to do this. It's almost impossible. Not only is he getting away with it, he needs to manage this complicated rhyme scheme, but also do all the other things he wants to do to get in the right word, the nice dialogue, the nice descriptions, the beautiful images. He's making it very, very hard on himself. Why would he do this? To show that he can. Spenser is a virtuosic poet. He shows off his incredible technical skill. You're supposed to see it. He's doing this because he can and nobody else can. And you can't. Nobody can. This is incredibly difficult. Watch him play. Respect the game. This stanza is designed to show off his crazy sick game as a technical poet. And he does. Now, I know he's always stopping and say, oh, I am rugged and rude in style. I'm a terrible poet. I'll say 2 things about that. One is, it is standard in the early modern period, the English Renaissance, to talk about yourself modestly. We call it the modesty trope, where the poet says, I'm just a humble poet. I'm just an unfrozen caveman. I'm so simple and rude in speech. Whenever somebody in a Renaissance text starts to tell you how bad he is at talking or writing, get ready. He's about to blow the roof off the dump. He's about to really put on a display. So partly when Spenser says, I am but ragged and rude as a poet, that's just part of the game. Everybody says that. You're supposed to say that. You're supposed to pretend to be humble. Everybody knows. More importantly, he can say, I am but a simple poet, while he does it in this incredibly elaborate rhyme scheme that nobody else in the world can do. I'm just a simple poet doing this elaborate stuff. It's like, I'm not much of a guitar player, crazy shred solo. Right? Or it's like singing a complicated opera aria where you sustain the high C for a minute and a half, and you're singing about what a weak amateur singer you are. Nobody believes it, right? He tells us he's a weak poet. He shows us he's an incredibly gifted poet. He's also doing this virtuosic poetry because it's fun. It sounds pretty. Spenser believes poetry is supposed to sound nice. Art is meant to be beautiful. It can't be pretty enough or ornamental enough. Let me walk you through a couple key Spenser stanzas from Canto 2. This is from the Magic Mirror scene, where our girl Britomart has seen her boy Artegal in the Magic Mirror, and not quite immediately, she's fallen in love at first sight when she hasn't even seen the boy. Courtly love starts visually always. It's the love at first sight, originally comes out of the courtly love tradition. You've fallen in love with somebody you've never spoken to. Is that real love? Poets say yes. Life experience, you be the judge. This is on page 38 in your edition of 30 and 39. Here is a description of Artegal in the Magic Mirror with Britomart seeing him. And this is, first of all, this is a kind of another moment where Spenser stops and does a kind of move from the classics that he's going to show us he can do. The description of the hero in his armor, there's a famous description in Homer's Iliad of Achilles' armor, especially his shield. We're going to stop and show we're going to stop and describe what kind of armor Artegal, he's going to be the hero of book 5, is wearing. And just so you don't miss the reference, Artegal is literally wearing Achilles' old armor. He's found it. He's got it. It's from the past. Forget it. Now it's time to do new heroic deeds with this ancient classical armor. His crest was covered with a couchant hound, and all his armor seemed of antique mould, but wondrous massy and assured sound, and round about it fretted all with gold, in which there written was with ciphers old, Achilles' arms, which Artegal did win. And on his shield enveloped sevenfold, he bore a crowned little ermine, that decked the azure field with her fair powdered skin. That's pretty. That's intricate. The crowned there is that pronounced silent E to make it work. How did I know to say crowned and not crowned? I needed to get to 10. Beautiful, pretty, resonant. The music of the rhyme is very much what we're about here. And he's going. If you don't like it, too bad. If you do like it, there's plenty more where that came from. Here is poor Britomart trying to fall asleep. She's seen the boy. She thinks she's okay. She thinks she's cool, but she's not. And she's starting to have those courtly love pangs. You can't sleep. It's like a fever. It's terrible. You need antibiotics. So soon as night had with her pallid hue defaced the beauty of the shining sky, and reft from men the world's desired view, she with her nurse adown to sleep did lie, but sleep full far away from her did fly. Instead thereof sad sighs and sorrows deep kept watch and ward about her warily, that naught she did but wail, and often steep her dainty couch with tears, which closely she did weep. Alright, pretty intricate. It's hard to do. If you really want extra credit, we can maybe try an assignment where you write that. If you want the extra credit, it won't be worth much. You tell me about it. It's not easy to do. Spenser can do it all day long for years at a time. He is not like the rest of the children, and he wants us to know it. Certainly, but this is the method with which he's going to tell his story, locked into 9 complicated interlocking rhymed lines at a time. Not simple pairs of rhymes, not unrhymed lines. He's going to make it as hard for himself as he possibly can because he wants it pretty and because nobody else can.